Well, I think the most important attributes for leaders currently are adaptability, because our world is changing so fast and all the time that you've got to be able to move and adjust no matter what happens in the business world, in your particular market, and how you handle the situations. Teamwork. Teamwork has always been important. It'll always be important. Um, but particularly right now, because so many people, due to the pandemic, have worked in different situations, not necessarily in the office, but from home or from some other location. Teamwork's even more important because you've got to be able to pull people together and work when everybody's not together at one point. Also, I'd say the ability to inspire your team. People want to love what they do, and people work for companies that they believe in, but more importantly, they work for people that they believe in and respect. And then I'd also say another important leadership characteristic is the ability to share your vision and get people excited about it. People want to follow what you do as a leader, and that can also be your client. You've got to sell your vision on why what you do is so important and why it's exciting, and how to get them excited about that, so that they want to either purchase your product or your service or follow what you do.
So currently what I see is needed as attributes for a good leader to be in leadership, I think would be someone who is empathetic. You need to be able to relate to others and be able to be confident and strong in who you are and what you believe, but I think it's also very important to understand others, and to be a good leader you have to be able to inspire others, and that comes from being able to understand.
I think absolute diligence is the main one, but and the willingness to lead in a servant manner, not just leadership, but be willing to do what you're asking your employees to do, and walking that out. And I think it's, as a leader, to be the first one to get there and one of the last to leave. I think it's you're to set the example for the work ethic.
I think the teamwork and ability to work from anywhere are going to be huge. Also, just an increased attention on technology. Technology continues to change so quickly that people are going to have to know the newest, the best, the fastest technology that's out there, including virtual meeting spaces and things like that. I'll also say I think that people going forward are going to have a really thick skin. So many people over the last couple of generations, we've given out trophies for participation, and everybody's a winner, which is important, particularly for kids. But there are a lot of no's when you're out in business, and you've got to not take a no as something personal. I always tell my team, don't ever think of no as no. It just means not right now. It could be later. And to always kind of have that positive attitude on that. So I think that's going to be important going forward as well.
They have to be very. I think they need to be super driven, and even deeper than that, they need to be very methodical about how they step into it, because the way society's changing and the world's advancing, going to need very methodical and intelligent thinkers. It's not going to be much brawn anymore. It's going to be more brain.
Well, the pandemic spurred on a lot because people couldn't go and be together in offices, so people started to work remotely, but also just to focus over the last couple of years on work-life balance. People are putting time with family, time on vacation, higher than salary level, and some of the other benefits that traditionally have been the driving force for people to work hard. So I think that going forward, leaders are going to have to be able to inspire their people, but also give them some interesting benefits to attract and retain the best employee.
Definitely with technology, you gotta stay up on it. If you don't know it, you better hire someone that can keep you informed of new changes. Social media is a big factor. I find it difficult to get connected with social media, so I do have people that work with me, younger people who are more in tune with it, use it a lot more than I do. But I do use the basics. I do have a good understanding of it. Technology is a big one. It's changing daily. The equipment's changing daily. Perspectives, even the environment of being in front of somebody is changing. We're having a meeting right now virtually, so a lot of things are changing. That being one of them.
And what do you think is causing the change in these needed attributes?
Just the way society's moving. I mean, we're far more technological bound than we used to be. So I mean, with that, you're going to need more Elon Musk in the world and less Paul Bunyan. You're not going to need the labor. You're going to need the brain and intelligence. So I think it's just a society advancing, and it's a good thing that society's moving forward. But that would be my primary.
Ooh, that's a great question. So I've been blessed to work for some great leaders. I've worked for one or two awful leaders, and I'd always recommend that throughout your career to not only watch and learn from your great bosses, but to really learn from the bad ones. I had one in particular who was awful, and I really learned some things not to do with my teams. And with my great leaders, the really the best lessons were never ask anybody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. They were always the first ones out there, the first one at the event, the first one to sweep the floor even though it wasn't their job. That showed that they were part of the team even though they were the boss. So that was always important. And then they always wanted to further my growth in my career. They pushed me to be better. They pushed me to even, not necessarily to leave that job, but that they always said, you've got such an ability, you're going to do bigger and better things than this job will ever be. And so they really encouraged me for career growth. And I've always tried to do that with my teams as well, to build the next generation. I've said many times that when you hire people, you really should look at it as hiring your replacement. Because if you do a good job inspiring your team or that person, you want them to stay at that company. You want them to build in their career and eventually have the ability, the skill, and the knowledge to take over from you.
I think for me, what's left an impression is being able to allow people the space to be themselves and have ideas and be collaborative. I think that is something that I've seen within leadership, especially here, that I really appreciate, and is something that I hope that I can emulate when I become a leader. I think, again, I talked about being able to inspire. I think, you have to go through things to be able to inspire others, but I think too that your experiences with others and working as a team and really being vulnerable and empathetic can help you get to a place where you can be strong, you can be confident, you can be that decision maker, but you can really create a space of authenticity and have your people be genuine. And I think that's where you get the best results, is when your people can be themselves.
Man, we had a laborer one day when I worked for my father's company, and this dude would always show up with like the best attitude, no matter how crappy the work got, no matter how long of a day we had. He always had the best attitude. So I think that was one of his nickname was Weecho, but that was one of the most prominent ones that I can think of. And obviously I saw it in my father. My father would leave the house 4:30, 5 in the morning, 7 days a week, get home when it was dark, and it's just consistent, hardworking people and with a good attitude. Those are the most admirable ones I think I've experienced.
Well, over many different types of jobs, and hugely because of those great mentors and leaders who I was fortunate to work for. Little pieces of each person. My first couple jobs were actually for my father, and I learned some great lessons from him and some great habits in the work world, and so I've retained those and taken those to other jobs where I've had great bosses and taken and learned little things from them as well. So I'm a giant chili pot of great knowledge, skills, and leadership characteristics that really came from others. And then, of course, put my own spin on it.
Examples of ways that I don't want to be. So that, which I think is also kind of a key component. I think it's just as valuable to learn how you don't want to be as it is what you do want to be. So I've kind of got to see both sides of that, and that's kind of helped me develop an idea of what kind of leader I want to be. And so when I interact with my colleagues, when I interact with my peers, when I'm tapped into, kind of be that leader, I go back to the experiences that I had with those good examples, with my mentors, and just try to emulate what they've taught me.
Just being very conscious of how I carry myself throughout the day and how people respond to how I carry myself. And again, just being very diligent to double down on, because I think everybody knows what the right thing to do is in situations in work and in leadership, but they choose not to due to it being more effort. And I just try to make a prominent effort to get it done right the first time, and I think that's what served me so well.
What's necessary for someone to realize those characteristics?
Struggle. I think struggle is absolutely necessary because you need that to shape and build that grit into you to be able to lead. And I think you need to serve someone in leadership for a long time until you kind of get all the bases and start to understand, and then you can step into it a lot easier than just jumping right into a role.
I think they're very important, especially you mentioned that you had to do some virtual training. A lot of the interview process is virtual, and I think we're slowly getting out of that, but I don't think it's going anywhere fully. So I think it's really important to showcase those leadership skills. And, one of the great things about High Point University, as you know, is that you all are taught these, skills, these life skills, these soft skills that are going to be very, integral in becoming the leader that you want to be in the future. So I think making sure that you showcase those in a way where you're not only saying, that you have these skills, but giving really good examples of how you've shown them, how you've used them. I think it's super important, and employers are always looking for that.
I'm not just looking for someone to take a job. I'm looking for what's their future potential. If a guy comes in, say he comes right out of college, say they're very cocky, very confident, they demonstrate they're very good leaders, but they've mentioned nothing about being a follower. They kind of don't shine as much as I would like them to, in my eyes. So I'm looking for someone who knows how to lead and follow, because that shows that you're modest, you're open-minded, and you're willing to learn. You're not just, I'm in charge, you do what I tell you. It's a character, and you'll see it when you first meet them. You can actually see it in their face when they first sit down, if they've been a follower or a leader or both. At least I can. I've seen so many. I've been pretty right most of the time. But I've never used that to hold it against somebody, because there are some other attributes that just they stand out as well, as being punctual, confident. Some people follow up after the interview 2 or 3 days later with a thank you note. That is extremely rare. The longer I've been in the industry, the rarer that gets. A little thank you for your time, that goes a long way. That means, okay, you're really interested in this job. You're saying, you're recognizing my time was valuable, and that you enjoyed the conversation, and you hope that you can contribute to the company. So there are little things that can sway me in a different direction.
Hugely important. Again, because of what I said a minute ago, you need to always think about hiring professionals as your replacement. If you're not willing to look at somebody that you're going to hire as a leader or as a future leader in your company, then you need to move on to the next person. You need to only be hiring people who have leadership ability, because you want them to stay in your company. You want to retain the best employees, and you have to do that by giving them further professional growth and management responsibility, things like that. So leadership characteristics are very, very important for hiring new people.
All right. Any final thoughts?
It's a crazy time out there right now, and anything that people can do to separate themselves from the big stack of resumes that are out there is important. They're always going to look at leadership qualities. I think it will be one of the most important things when looking for a career. But also I'd say don't be afraid to be yourself, and to be fun, have fun with it. I always try to have fun when I interviewed for jobs, because people remember that. They'll remember your personality, they'll remember your leadership qualities, and they'll remember if you're authentic. Nobody wants to hire somebody who doesn't seem real, so I always try to be authentic in those processes.